Byron listeners, get yourselves down to Cairns Brothers on March 29th. We are hosting a Legends of Origin afternoon, evening with myself, in between Willie Mason and Shane Webke. We're going to be telling tales from Origin, their careers at the Broncos, the Bulldogs, and everywhere else that Willie went. Hopefully we can keep them apart, but it is going to be an amazing night. So that's March 29th, Saturday. Get yourselves down there. Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Buy Round interview show. We are today joined by Kevvie Walters, a man who has quite simply had an incredible life in Rugby League, a player, a coach, now a pundit. Kevvie, thanks for joining us. How are we, my friend?
Oh, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, a bit of a different world I'm living in at the moment, the podcast world, as well as some work on Fox. So I'm really enjoying that, not being directly attached to the game, but not in the pressure cooker of coaching for this year. So, I'm enjoying it, but coaching really is my passion. I don't know why, because everyone, either it's in the system or it's not, and if you're an ex-player like yourself, you obviously don't have that attraction to coach. You do any coaching?
No, I had a look behind the curtain and thought, I've been a lunatic, and Rugby League made me frustrated and idiotic and crazy as a player. I think I needed to transition out of that.
Well, we've seen that with some coaches, the way they react in the coaches box, don't we? Look, that's my passion. And I love the game, basically. Yeah. It's given me everything in my life, and I want to give back in any way that I can, whether it's coaching, podcasting, on Fox, on the networks, on the radios, Triple M, whatever it is. I just love the game. Huge attachment to the game.
Your new podcast, The Inside Ball, with Ben Dobbin, of all people. I mean, you talk about the stress of coaching. I mean, the stress of
twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week.
So not even just the co-host, but a business partner as well.
There's not much business going on at the moment, I can tell you. But, Dobbo and I go way back, actually, back to the floods in 2011 up in Queensland. We did a show on Triple M, the Dead Set Legends, on a Saturday morning. Yeah. This was back when, years and years ago. So we've got a strong connection. We seem to have a good affinity with each other, when we're sitting down and we're just talking about things. So, we're in our early days with the podcast, Inside Ball, but we're really excited about where we can take the show and how we can, I see it as a tool to, not only entertain people, but also good, informative, information about our game from a coach's perspective, from a former player's perspective, and even from a fan. We're all fans of the game as well.
That's how we all start out.
At different, we start out as a fan. So I've been all those people in the rugby league world. I've been a kid coming through playing. I've been a fan. I've been a coach, been assistant coach. I've been a player. Rugby league is the game for us.
Yeah. What was your favourite position to be in the game? The fan, the kid aspiring to make it, actually making it, coaching,
I loved it, all of them. I loved being a kid, waking up on game day and playing. Yeah. Playing for trophies. I've always wanted to win things.
Well, you did plenty of that.
Yeah, but even as a kid, they don't do it anymore, mate. They don't. You're 7 years old, you can't go and win the grand final. You've got to play for a ribbon or, a participation award. That annoys me, because winning and losing teaches you how to, in life. Not everybody wins all the time. Not everybody loses. And you've got to get taught those lessons through sport. That's a good way.
It's such a great vehicle for so many soft skills. It keeps people on a straight and narrow, but also
being part of a team too.
Learning how to deal with difficult people.
Yeah, mate, you got a halfback called Alfie Langer who won't pass you the ball. You've got to go and talk to him. So, mate, pass me the ball. So many teachings in our game, and that's what I love about it, because I've learned so much from the game. And from when I was 7 years old, when Dad, cooking me breakfast on grand final day, big steak and egg and chips. You need a hearty meal, lad, to go and play your game. So you just learn so much from everyone, from your friends, from your family, from your teammates, from your coaches, from your team managers. Everyone can help and guide you to be the person who you are. You know?
So sport is, and especially team sport, is such a
team sport.
a great learning curve for any person in all socioeconomic backgrounds. Like it gives so much to so many people, and obviously you and I gained so much from the game, but I was, the people and the volunteers were never doing it to make us into professional rugby league players or coaches like yourself. They were doing it to make us better people.
Well, and they were. And the enjoyment that my mum and dad got out of watching all of our, I've got 4 brothers and all played rugby league at all different levels. But, they went on Kangaroo Tours. They went over to World Club Challenges. They've been to State of Origins. They've been to Grand Finals. When you and I've had that pleasure of watching my son play in a Grand Final, and it doesn't have to be NRL. It can be local. It's just a great feeling and a feeling of pride, and that you helped that person become the player or the person that they are in that lifestyle.
Even for myself, just talking to you now, like thinking back to like my dad before I came to play in the NRL, I could count on one hand the number of games he'd missed since I was 7.
There you go.
And it became such an important part of his life, and then my mum's life as well. When she was a bit of a glory hunter, she started going when I started playing for the first team. She goes, I'll tag along. But
Dad was there all the way.
Dad was there, in freezing cold, in winter in England. Just
mate, those people are the ones that really get great. They get great satisfaction out of seeing you do well. As their child and their son. I think that's what rugby league gives people.
Yeah, it does.
It gives so much.
It does give so much, mate. You mentioned about your 4 brothers, the household, the level of competition.
Yeah.
How much did that help? We hear some experts talk about the 10,000 hour rule, and that's not in structured play. But you must have just wake up, we're on.
We're on. Yeah, home
after
from school,
we're on. Weekends, holidays, we're just on.
Yeah, and a couple of things there, like because 5 brothers, there was always 3v2, and it was always the oldest one and the youngest one against the 3 middle ones. So I'm the youngest of 5. My older brother Brett, we used to play against the other 3. There was some great. Sometimes there was only 2-on-2, or even Kerrod and I used to go just 1-on-1. In a little smaller area. Couldn't use the big field for 1-on-1. That was too big. Chip and chasing over the clothesline. We had a concrete pass through the middle at the front. Sometimes we play at the front. And that was no tackling on there, just grab, and then it was all sorts of backyard rules that everyone has.
Yeah.
And even it got to a point where Dad bought a floodlight and lit up the backyard, and so we were the first team to play under lights. And we'd get the boot polish out, put it under the eyes, and they'd be yelling out, "Come on, come up and do your homework," and we'd famously yell back, "We're doing our homework."
Yes.
That's what we love.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to come through just in that era. Rugby league turned professional here in 95. So myself, Steve and Kerrod all had professional contracts then. And it was because we're a family of tradies. I'm a carpenter by trade. My older brother's a carpenter. Stephen was an electrician. We had a sheet metal worker, and Kerrod was. So we're all just tradie families, working class. But then when the game turned professional, fully professional, we were very fortunate to be in that phase there where we got a little bit of extra money towards the back end of our careers.
You get paid for doing something that you do for free anyway.
That's it. It's a bit like this, isn't it, Jimmy? A bit like this.
Yeah.
We
still talk about the game.
The game. You want to pay me for that?
Yeah. Well, I'm having these conversations down at the gym, down at the cafe,
it's
at the pub.
Could be anywhere.
Anyway, you just stick a mic in, and you get.
So Mum and Dad invented the floodlight, and Mum invented the sin bin, because we used to have a hose, and that used to be the try line, right? And if it got a bit heated, Mum would get the hose, and whoever was causing the ruckus, she would hose them and say, "Now you go and stand over there next to the shed
on report
for 10 minutes
you're in the
while
bin.
you cool, or 5 minutes."
Match review committee.
That's it. And I've got my brother Andrew. He's the middle sort of brother. He's a redhead and he's fiery, and he was always in the sin bin.
Nah, redheads don't. Nah, mate.
Jimmy, he was always in the bin, mate. He spent more time in there than you did. Set off in your career,
mate. You're typecasting gingers. We're not fiery.
No, he's a terrific bloke, though. He's a terrific fella, and they really did hone, because I was the youngest, so I was always playing against bigger, stronger boys, and I was a bit of a sook too. If I didn't win, I'd sort of get cranky and upset.
It means something to you, though.
And then I'd have to go and sit out because Mum would say, "No, they can't be." There was one game when I was, Kerrod and I were playing under sevens, and I was the captain, And the referee actually came over. He called Kerrod out. He said, I want to speak to Kev. I want to speak to you, your brother. And he said, what's the matter? He said, well, you got to stop Kevin. He's crying all the time. You can't. You got to stop him from crying. If he keeps crying and whinging the way he is, I'm going to have to send him off. So that's what he said to Kerrod. So Kerrod's come back to me and said, Kev, you got to stop sooking, mate. What's wrong? I said, why? What did he say? He said, well, if you keep crying, he's going to send you off. So what did I do? I started crying. I got sent off for crying.
Imagine that now.
Well, there's a few there that we possibly could put in that category. But rugby league's been so good to us and my family.
Mate, you speak about the transition into the professional game, and I guess for a lot of our listeners, they've only grown up with the NRL.
Yeah.
And back then, it's hard to believe that there was no Broncos in the main competition.
No.
Even just looking back at your history and doing some research, I forget you began at the Raiders in Canberra.
Started at the Raiders, because back in the day, Jim, even long before you were here, the Sydney competition, and that's what it was known in New South Wales, was the premier competition. So a lot of the players, if you're in Queensland and from Brisbane or wherever across Queensland, if you wanted to test yourself to be the best, you had to go to Sydney. And then the Queensland Rugby League thought, well, hang on, we're losing so many players to Sydney. Our competition is being derailed. So they brought in an import rule. So each club, Sydney club, could only have 3 imports per year. So if you wanted to go to Sydney, you had to be one of those imports. And I went to Canberra, and that was known as the Queensland club, really, because there was a lot of Queenslanders there already. Meninga, Belcher, Sam Backo, my brother was already there. So the year that I went was myself, Peter Jackson, the late great Peter Jackson, God bless him, and Steve Jackson was the other one who went from Queensland. So, but that rule got changed continually, trying to stop the drain of Queensland players heading to Sydney.
Obviously, the Broncos coming into the competition, I'm assuming you felt an attraction to go back there. And
definitely.
It's hard to fathom now because unless you experienced it at that time, was there pressure on that Brisbane group to sort of showcase that you belong here with the bigwigs of Sydney?
Yeah, well, it was Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, Greg Dowling. They were the 3. Greg Kinescu, Colin Scott. Their first team had about 6 or 7. Alfie was there in the first ever Broncos team. 6 or 7 or even 8 internationals. So there was pressure on at the Broncos from the get go, and that was fine. They missed the finals the first couple of years, but they had a great coach in Wayne, and Wally and Gene and these guys were sort of not past their best, but their careers were ending more than starting off. So, but they did a great job initiating. There would be no Broncos without Gene Miles, Wally Lewis, these sort of guys who put the flag in the ground and said, come on, we're the Broncos. And ever since the Broncos had been formed, I just always wanted to play for them for some reason. I felt a connection even though I wasn't even playing there. It's just Brisbane. It's not my home city, Ipswich is, but it was 40 minutes down the road. So I just felt that the colours, everything appealed to me.
Yeah. And I guess representing the Broncos, although they're a Brisbane team, there certainly was a sense that they represented the entire state. Yeah,
and they still do. There's fans across the world now that support the Broncos, but they were seen as Queensland's team, and that was represented by the players with Wally was Queensland Australian captain, Gene Miles, Greg Dowling, all these guys that I mentioned were all playing for Queensland and Australia at the time. So they were seen as Queensland's team and still are. They're the big dog up there. Cowboys have made some progress, Titans, even the Dolphins, but the Broncos are still, when you look at them as a club, they're huge.
They really are. And mate, when you look at your career and what you achieved, like 6 competitions is
wow. It does get dismissed sometimes, which kind of annoys me sometimes. With different people, it's not lucky winning 6. No, you can get lucky.
But who? What do you mean dismisses? Like,
well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I certainly let everyone. Yeah, I'm very proud of my career,
and so you should be.
But I was very fortunate as well to play with some, and you were too, some great players, coached by some really good people who coached me well from my early days with Wayne Bennett. Wayne, Alfie, and I, and Kerrod. Wayne met us as 16-year-olds, and coached us in under-18s for Queensland before he became Wayne Bennett, the super coach, way back, So we were fortunate. And Wayne was, even back as a 15 or 16-year-old, you could see he just had something compared to any other coach that you'd
Wow.
had, So
that's something to be said there.
Yeah. So Wayne initially took me to Canberra as one of the imports because he was an assistant coach there one of the coaches with Don Furner. So we had the Australian coach there and the Queensland coach at the Raiders, which coming into there was brilliant and amazing. And then I was fortunate enough when Wayne left, I stayed on because I had a 3-year deal with Tim Sheens, who was different to Wayne but equally brilliant coach, ahead of his time.
Yeah.
With innovation and all the things that I remember that Tim used to do around training with, pre-training habits, and totally different to Wayne, but also so much success. Tim Sheens won 3 or 4 premierships there with the Raiders.
You forget that, don't you?
Yeah. Like he was well ahead of his time and so different to Wayne as far as coaching goes.
Yeah.
Their methods.
In that Broncos team, it was a different era, no phones. And like you say, rugby league just becoming professional full time. Plenty of characters, larrikins.
Yes.
Anyone in particular stand out?
Alf is a great larrikin. I could tell you 1,000 stories, about Alf and the way that he just brought a team together as a captain. Different captain to Wally, and Mal. I was fortunate to be captained by Mal in Canberra, but just a different way that he does things to how Mal does it, to Wally. So many ways you can do things and be successful.
And when I think about Alfie, the reputation is this larrikin, this cheeky person, this lovable rogue. But is that a little bit of an enigma, a bit of a myth? Because it's my understanding that he used to win a lot of the training sessions in terms of like the conditioning drills, the strength drills.
No, he didn't win conditioning, not at all. He competed, but he just wasn't naturally fit. But run across that white line and no one would beat him. Al famously went on a road run with Pat Shepardson, who's no longer here. This was when they were in Ipswich with Tommy Radonigas. So the old pre-season road run. Don't do them anymore because they've been phased out. But Alf and Sheppo, and training used to be at night then. And it was hot in Ipswich, very hot. So this hot summer afternoon, Tommy sent them on a 10-kilometre road run. They ran around the corner and hid under the house. Waited for the other team members to run. Didn't come first. They, waited for the other team members to run back, and then they got the hose and hosed themselves with this hose that was under the house of this person, and then just rejoined the group back in. Tommy couldn't believe they finished the 10Ks in that sort of time, but he woke up to it in the end. But Alf was just a larrikin. But you put a ball in his hand, and you won't beat him.
So it was just competitive, drive. Like
all those
will not
things.
Be beaten.
And when the game was on the line, this is where I got so much respect for Alf. He wanted the ball, and he would, like all the great players, and you played with him as well. He wanted the ball in his hands, and he made things happen.
Where do you think that comes from? Because if you don't have the backup then of being a freak athlete or the competitor at training,
well, he was competitive at training, but he just wasn't naturally a fit person.
So where do you think that?
It just comes from here, mate.
You were beside him.
Yeah, it just came from his mind. Powerful. The mind's very powerful. And he knew he wasn't the greatest of trainers, but when it was game day, he was on.
Yeah.
Very rarely did I see him have a bad game or not play, not come up with something in a game that was you just sit there and think, wow, what a player,
I hear the story of the Broncos coming down to Sydney for a grand final and them going for a beer
going for a bet on so the grand final was Sunday. They pulled into the Brisbane racetrack, Eagle Farm or Doomben, whichever one it was, him and Gilly for a bet. Just before, because the racetrack's right near the airport, it's virtually on the way. So they pulled in there to have a bet, and Alf could see this is when Alan did gamble. He doesn't anymore, of course. He tried to get the bet on. He had to go under this little sign, but he clipped his eye, and it started bleeding, and he fainted because he doesn't like the sight of blood. Anything that he sees blood, he just faints. So he fainted, and Gilly had to wake him up, and they got him. The next day after the green, Wayne noticed the cut on Alfie's eye, and the story came out, But him and Gilly used to always betting used to a little bit of a release for them from the pressure of rugby league, I remember that it's Golden Slipper weekend. I think this weekend is it?
It is, yeah.
There was a game that we were playing against St George on a Saturday, and it was right on the time of the Golden Slipper race. So Alfie and Gino had put a bet on, and Gilly, and they were packing a scrum. It was right about the time, and Alfie went down, just started lying on the ground, and our trainer Kelvin Giles ran out. He said, "Alfie, you never go down. What are you doing?" He said, "Kelvin, find out the winner of the Golden Slipper for us, will you? We need to know." We were getting beaten at this time. They were paying poorly, yeah. Anyway, the next scrum comes out, and Alfie,
to know.
He goes,
We need
to know. So Alf goes down. Kelvin comes back. The race is run, and I forget the name of the horse. They told Alfie. Alfie's gone, yes. He's yelled out to Gino, "We're on." Next thing, the intensity of the whole game just lifted. We got back in front. We won. It was a great afternoon. But those are and they used to like playing at the the old Sydney football stadium, because it used to have the race results up on the screen.
Oh, really?
And we'd have to make sure we're running the right way, because Alf was a captain. He used to do the toss.
Do the toss to make sure. Not test the wind.
No, not test the wind. The wind had nothing to do with it. Where can we see those race results?
That is sensate, man. It just.
But it was all in good fun, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And they were competitive, mate. They wanted to win.
Absolutely.
They wanted to win.
The famous Liverpool teams, the soccer team in the 70s, they used to have like a coin that they passed to one another during the game. And if somebody passed it, so if I'm playing, start with the coin, if I hand it to you, you've got to take it. And whoever was left with the coin at the end of the game had to buy the round of drinks for everyone. Like that was the
that
thing.
sort of stuff. It's camaraderie, mate. It's building teams.
That's it. It goes into building connections, and obviously the focus is on the game. But I think that type of connection to the group. It's building connection in a I guess an old school way through alcohol and stuff like that. But mate, so much fun.
Yeah, so much fun, and that was when it was semi-professional. And you can still have fun now. I really enjoyed. That's the thing I like about coaching, is just bringing people together, bringing a team together. Even as captain, when I captained the Broncos, Alfie left in '99. He retired, and then I became the captain for the rest of that year, and then for 2000. And we had a really young team. Gordy was in that team. Webke, Petro, Brad Thorne, Wendell. It was a younger team coming through, and that was Ben Eichen was in that side. That was so easy to bring together as a group. We had a great season. We won the grand final, and that was one of my special moments. Of playing in a team was just watching them all come together and grow as men.
Were you in the team where the Broncos came down to Sydney for the grand final on the Wednesday? A few of them went for a beer.
Yes.
Got out of hand.
That was the 2000 team.
It made the papers. And at grand final day breakfast, Wayne's going, look what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, that was his son-in-law, Ben Eichen. So we went out. So we came down Wednesday. The grand final breakfast would normally be on a Thursday. So we did the breakfast, trained, and we said, well, Gordy and I said, well, Wendell was in everything, We went into... Not to the cross, just
the rocks.
The rocks.
Yeah.
Into there. We just had a few beers, right? Didn't have a whole lot.
Right. You can't kid a kidder. What's a
whole lot to me and a whole lot to you is probably a whole lot different. I reckon I would have had 6 beers. There you go. Light beers.
Yeah.
Wendell and them probably a little bit. Because I'm older than them, so I probably went earlier, right? But so and Benny Eichen was there. Benny's gone down to have breakfast with Wayne. The next morning, he was just happened to be in where everyone was eating, and Wayne said, "Hey Ben, some of those boys, their eyes look a bit blurry. What's going on? They've been out. There's a story here. They've been out on the drink." And Ben's gone, thinking very quickly. Oh no, he said they've been in the pool, mate, swimming. That chlorine's a bit heavy. They said, oh, that's all right, it's fine. Yeah, no problems. And then we played the game. It was against the Bulldogs. It was actually 90. I'll get my years mixed up now, Jimmy. 98 or 2000, and we won the game. We won the game in the end. But yeah, that was true. I remember the back end of my career, I used to have 2 or 3 beers the night before a game, just in my hotel room or at home, just to relax. Not a lot, but just to enjoy, really getting ready to enjoy what was about to happen the next day.
Well, we see it with even the modern day athlete having a lot of like what would be perceived as junk food, like the day of the game, because it's insane what the body does to you when you're getting ready to go out and play a game, and you do need that level of relaxation.
Yeah,
and whether it's through food or beer or breathing or saunas or whatever it is, but it's a strange feeling that like the game day nerves.
Yeah,
it's a real thing. Or the night before, especially, you can't sleep.
No, sometimes you do have trouble getting to sleep. So, although I sort of didn't so long since I played, but you really got to admire that today's rugby and athletes, particularly professional sports people, with the amount of pressure that's on, even just in an NRL game now.
Yeah. Everybody's
watching. Fox are on, Channel 9's on, the broadcasters are on, the radio's on. So you can't hide on the field, can you?
We're recording this just before round 3, and already 2 or 3 coaches are under pressure. After 2 games.
After 2 rounds. Come on.
Yeah. So round 1, I put the red line through 5 teams. I thought they're done.
Yeah.
But obviously you get caught in this bubble that we're in where we're
but that's why we love it.
It is.
That's the attraction of it.
Yeah.
Is the uncertainty as well.
That there is a big attraction to uncertainty.
There is, but unless it happens to you. Well, if it's happened to someone else, it's okay. But when it happens to you, it's not so nice,
But I was going to save this question for a little bit later about why coaching, what attracts you to that life, because it is a life. It's not work-life balance.
No,
it's a life.
Yeah,
it's everything, and the uncertainty of it, because a fixed future, a known future. It's you're not putting your money in a fixed bond. You're not getting a 3% dividend on a fixed bond. Tie it for this over 5 years. I'm putting it into the unknown here. I'm putting my life into the unknown.
Well, I didn't feel that way.
You didn't?
Probably naively. When after the 2000 grand final, I walked off. We captained, the Broncos won. I knew straight away what my next movement in some players finish their careers and don't know where their next part of their life is going to take them. I knew I was going to be a coach. So I went and coached straight away even the last couple of years of my playing career, I would take more notes than I normally would. I'd sort of ask more questions. Yeah. Wayne was obviously the coach at the Broncos, but also was fortunate enough to be coached by Arthur Beetson, at State of Origin level, Bob Fulton for Australia. So I was so lucky to be mentored by so many of the great, not only players, but also great coaches of the modern era. So I was writing things down and collecting information, knowing that one day I could I've still got them at home, go back and source some information on if I got stuck somewhere. And so for 20 years, I worked as an assistant coach, a head coach. I coached over in England with the Catalan Dragons. I coached at lower levels. I coached my kids for fun. So every level I got exposed to for 20 years. And then only after 20 years, I coached State of Origin in the last sort of few years, 4 years at that, successfully. And then the last bit of that 20 years, I finally got my dream job at the Broncos, which what I wanted to do. So for 20 years, I pursued
climbing that mountain.
Yeah, I climbed it, and then I wanted to win a grand final with the Broncos.
Yeah,
that's what I didn't want to win one. I wanted to win 5 or 6 because I'm greedy, Jimmy. I get greedy, and we got to the grand final in 23, and I thought, wow, is this real? It was a great week. I was really confident going into the game. And then we all know the result. So I'm disappointed with the result. But making a grand final, and you've played in 1,000. How many grand finals have you've played in 1,000,000, haven't you?
Oh, God. Played in 06. We won. 07, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, all lost. So that's 7, and then 2020 we won.
I'm going to blow that up a bit. People say you don't want to. You'd rather not make the grand final than lose it. No. What a load of absolute garbage.
Yeah.
The feeling, Jimmy, when you've made a grand final, it's only beaten by winning a grand final. That feeling when you know you're in the grand final is something that it's just always stayed with me. Knowing that you're going to be there on the last play, and there's only one other team. When you started the race, there was a whole lot more in the race, but they've all just gradually dropped off, and it's you and the hurdle, you know. And when we took Penrith on that night, I was really proud, and I'm still really proud of, you know, where my progress at the Broncos. When I first came into the Broncos, they were throwing wooden spoons over the fence, you know, and poor old Matty Middleton had to go and pick them up. So from last into that in 3 years, I'm really proud of my time at the Broncos as the head coach there. Did I realise my dream to win it? No, but making the grand final is some of my great memories as a player, coach, fan, supporter, sponsor, whatever. I just you know, it's really, really thick with me still.
Yeah, Kevvie, it actually reminds me of a quote or poem by Theodore Roosevelt. And it goes like this: "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who, at the best, knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." Absolutely,
and we know
sums
both.
it up. We know both. We know both.
So that's why I want to coach. That's why I like coaching. You know, my work at Fox, I love it. I love the media side of it as well. You know, commenting on the game, but there's nothing better. You know, and the reason why I'm drawn so much to coaching is I just love to win. I feel like I can win. I know how to win, and I want to transfer that into other people so they can get the same enjoyment of, because winning gives you great joy. Losing, by the other side of it, there's a flip side. It sucks. We've all lost.
Yeah, but at least you're out there.
Yeah,
giving it your all. And like that quote or that poem says, it's you're out there putting your balls on the line. You're not victory or defeat.
No, you're not criticising or saying, mate, you didn't. You know, you're in the fight.
You're having a go.
And you can't win all the time, as you know. You can't win all the time. But if you win more than you lose, and I have won more than I've lost, I'm in front.
Absolutely. I want to go back to that beginning of the reigns at the Broncos. Gordy Tallis tells us a story. You had to buy your own polo shirt.
But that was sort of it was a different time, you know, and that's okay. That didn't bother me too much. I was really just grateful for the opportunity to do. But I knew I'd worked hard for 20 years to get that job, and I had coached at State of Origin level, so that was pressure, like Origin's pressure.
You had the
that's pressure, you know. But the Broncos is a different pressure to Origin. Origin heats there for about 8 weeks, and then it slowly fades away. We get into finals, so it's a different pressure. But I love that, you know. My time at the Broncos, if I would do some things differently, which I won't share today.
That's fair.
They're all learnings though, mate. And I feel like that my style of coaching is really relevant to today's game. And I coach the players how I feel like I would appreciate to be coached.
Yeah.
You know? And that came from many different ways, from Craig, from Wayne Bennett, particularly like his methods and the way he goes about things. You know, Arthur Beats and Mal. Mal's a different coach to Wayne, different to Craig Bellamy, and they're all so different. But I sort of took a lot of everything that they sort of did as a coach, but then I just wanted to. My first couple of years as a coach, not at the Broncos, but at other clubs, I wasn't myself. I was trying to be Wayne or be like Craig. Yeah. So I realised in the end that if this is going to work for me, I've got to be me, because players will see through that, you know. And people think that I like a big joke and I like to have fun. Well, I do like to do that. That's all part of playing the game. You got to. If you don't have fun, why did you play rugby league, Jimmy?
Because I loved it.
Fun, right? 3 things you want to do when you play rugby league. You like competing. I've seen you compete. I saw you chew Billy Slater's ear off in that grand final, mate. That's competing. That's going after your target, right? So you want to compete. Second thing is you love the team environment. If you didn't like the team environment, you would have been a tennis player, snooker player, darts thrower.
Snooker would have been all right, actually.
Yeah.
147.
There you
Me
go.
and
Bang.
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Open something up there then. Isn't he from Warrington, the world champion snooker?
The darts player is, young Littler.
Yeah, right. He's only 16 or something, isn't he?
Yeah,
17.
Give or take, yeah. He can't even have a beer on stage.
No.
Imagine that. You win the darts championship.
Bring out some soft drink. A cup of tea or something. And you like the team environment, right? That's really important to you. Being part of a team, I reckon that's really special and undervalued. And the third thing is you want to play. Like you waking up, you played how many games? 15 years or 20 years or something, didn't you?
I lost count.
But waking up game day, there's no better feeling. What's in front of you?
Made me feel alive. It really did. I knew it was dangerous, but
Gives you purpose, mate. You know?
It appealed to my sense of purpose. And like I say, when people often say, look, I wasn't like the run straight over the top of someone front row, but on that back field when you're waiting for that kickoff, makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was about to tee off on someone, that made me feel alive. It might kill me, but it made me feel alive.
You feel alive, mate. And that's the feelings that, while not playing, I get from like you feel like you're in the moment, and that's why I love coaching, and I'll continue to coach. I will continue to coach.
One of the when I speak to other coaches, one of the things that appeals to them and clearly appeals to you as well is taking young, driven athletes to their potential and turning those talented boys into some of the superstars.
Yeah.
Some of the superstar men that we see today. You had that crop at the Broncos. Is that something that you relish, taking these molding their styles?
I love working with those boys.
Yeah.
They're great fellas. They're great. There's still a lot of them are still kids. You know, Paddy Carrigan and Payne Haas are the leaders of that forward pack. They're 25 or 26 years old, you know?
Yeah.
And their best football that's why I'm kind of annoyed. Their best football is still in front of them.
Yeah,
all of
it is.
Reece Walsh, Ezra Mam, you know, Renault and come up from the Dragons. So
Benny Hunt.
Yeah. Renault and Benny Hunt. Like they're at their best.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But these other ones, they've all got so much upside in them. And you know, that's the vision that I could see. And last year wasn't our greatest of years, but there were reasons for that. Not excuses. There were reasons why that happened. Now, I expect Brisbane this year, if they can stay healthy, I expect them to be there on grand final day.
Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit about the end of 23? We know the result. We know what happens, but as a coach, people, and I'm thinking back to one grand final in particular that we not too dissimilar circumstances. We had it won and we lost. St. Helens v Leeds in 2011. It was my last game at St. Helens. And just examining the process and just for you as a coach, all eyes, all ears will be on you. How? Because for you people are looking to you. So you've got to be careful how you react, what you say.
I was very aware of that at the press conference after the grand final, right? But I had some time to get my thoughts. But immediately after the game, walked on the field and Ivan came over and I just shook my head and said, mate, you've got to be joking. How did you do that? How did you guys do that? That's what I said to him. He said, I don't know, Kev. And he just smiled, you know, in a very respectful way. And so I was in disbelief, like how it quickly just got taken away like that. But it happened to the Broncos in 2015. It
did.
In a similar way. And Wayne, I remember being on the coaching staff with Wayne. Steve Kearney and I were in the coach's box. And when that happened, Wayne was just so calm, and I could tell he was angry, but he was very calm. And that's the image that I wanted to I was disappointed, but I was also calm. And Ben Hunt was in tears after that game because he was wrongly accused. You lost he didn't. But anyway, he was in tears. And Wayne, this was after the game in the dressing room. Wayne made a beeline to him. He was still a bit upset. There was a few guys upset, obviously, when you lose. And he went over and sat next to him. He said, "What are you doing? Stop these tears. There's no need for that. It's not your fault. And if this is the worst thing that happens to you in your life, Ben, you're going to be okay." And the tears that was great words of wisdom, I would have thought.
I understand why grown men cry.
Yeah, well, I used to cry all the time. I used to cry when I couldn't throw a six at Monopoly. That's how bad I got.
Get out of jail.
Yeah. No. Stay there.
Oh, no, it's not fair. I'm on free parking.
Yeah. So the next day we're getting on the plane to come back, and Al's handing out the 4Xs at the front of the plane, and Benny Hunt and Anthony Milford came on together, and Al's gone to hand him the beer and dropped it. And he said, "Oh, come on, Ben, that's twice in 2 days you've dropped things. Get up the back of the plane, get home." And Ben, he was just shattered, All that work from Wayne, all that overnight, 48, 24 hours, just gone in one comment from the great Alfie Langer. But he was only joking,
But again, that's how humour can be used in a really shitty situation to start to turn the tide. Yeah. Can I ask you, obviously, you win in 6 premierships at the Broncos in that incredible era.
5 at the Broncos, I'll correct you. One at the Raiders,
5 at the Broncos, 1 at the Raiders. But either way, an incredible feat at the Broncos. And I look at maybe other clubs like the St. George Dragons, obviously now the combined Illawarra Dragons, the Parramatta Eels and the great side of the 80s, that I think there's a bit of a shadow cast from those great eras. Is that the same at the Broncos, that there's this legacy that you as the player and the players have left that now it's unattainable for the current day player?
Oh, it's attainable. It's attainable. It is. And that's what I believe.
Do the players believe it?
Well, that was part of my mission to go back there, because Wayne went back there in 2015. We got to agreement. I was on the staff. So the club had lost its way, making finals, but not really competing at the last dance, the big dance. So Wayne got back there, and that happened. So he brought there's a culture at every club. It's different. The culture at St Helens will be different to the culture at the Bulldogs, to the Dragons. So the Broncos have a culture that I believe that only certain people are aware of and know what that real culture is, and it's different to the Storm. And I've worked at the Storm, and very successful club, but the way they do things is totally different to how Broncos do things and be successful. You want to be successful. So that's what I thought. My belief was to come back, and this is the Broncos way. I've worked at the Storm, and it's totally different. Their success has been totally different to the way how the Broncos were successful. Because Craig Bellamy was an assistant coach at the Broncos. He took all of his knowledge and also what he picked up at the Broncos to the Storm. And now they've been the most successful club with Penrith now in the last 10 years. Roosters have been there, but the Broncos haven't been there. But they've got the ingredients there now, if they know what they're doing, to have a really strong next 5 or 6 years, which was my vision of what I thought. But, I'm not there now, so... Yeah.
In terms of the season that was in 2024, my observations probably you were in the building, so you knew exactly what was going on. I looked at it and thought they're still hurt by this grand final, and the fact that we often think history and the past is fixed, but as more information comes to light, it can change how we view the past. So if I'm a player and I'm told how difficult it is to get there, that like these chances very rarely come up. And we hear all these stories. I made a grand final in my first year. I thought I'd do it forever. It
never got back there.
But we know this, and it's how difficult. But then because of the way the Broncos 23 lost, the start of 24, maybe that realization hit home where it's like, hang on a minute, Jesus, we're not going to go injury free the stars don't align. Geez, Flegler was good, wasn't he? Geez, Herbie was, like, he made a difference. Do you think that it was a psychological effect that some of the players maybe struggled to overcome?
Looking back, definitely. I mean, we tried to address it at the time as best you can.
Yeah.
Talking about it, how do we get better next time we go there? And to be honest, the start of the 2024 season, we actually started pretty well. We were in the top 4 or 5, 6 teams up until Origin. So and we had the Vegas trip, which I love what the Vegas does for the game, but it's tough. Talk to the coaches that lose over there and the teams. It's tough. You know, it's hard to win in Vegas, and that's a famous saying, but it actually is hard to win in Vegas. Talk to the coaches that lost. You know, it was myself and JD the first year, and this year the two coaches.
Warriors and Sharks.
So, you know, and they managed to bounce back round 2. We won game 2 against.
We saw what it did to Penrith last week against the Roosters.
Yeah.
That's got to play a part in it.
That has to. That was probably their worst performance in 5 years, Penrith. And they're keeping in mind how high their standards are and their level is above anyone else's. So, it does take a toll. But for the sacrifice of the game and what the game gets out of it, we have to keep going with Vegas. So you'd swap that any day of the week and see Melbourne. Craig's pretty smart. They haven't been to Melbourne. They haven't been to Vegas yet. They've been asked for 2 years in a row and they've said a flat no. And we were, the Broncos, the Broncos at the time were owned by Lachlan, Murdoch and News. So he had to be there on the stage.
They needed the punch, the big clubs. They needed the...
And Lachlan's he's a big hitter too, outside in any world, not just the... So that was just a given. Yeah. You know? So it had to happen. Yeah. And it did.
And the rest of the 2024 season transpired, and then at the end of the season, obviously didn't make the playoffs.
No.
And then on a Wednesday evening, news breaks.
Yeah.
Off the back of a review, which I think most people, I guess me as a pundit, saw it as a bit of a BS reason.
Yeah,
like, was there much in that review that was the catalyst for it? I mean, that's what it was sort of pegged on. But
Jimmy, there was lots of reviews, you know, after the season. You do a team review, and the Broncos decide to do an external one. Okay, so that they want to do that, they do that.
Not a fan of external reviews.
No, I'm not either. But that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
The board, CEO, that's their prerogative, so they do it. Then I just got to, you know when you know. And I got a bad feeling in my stomach, even before the review was done, that this is not looking too good for me. You know, you just get a feeling on different things in life, whether it's not your job or your kids, or you get a feeling that some different things. So I got the feeling, and I actually made the phone call to my manager, Chris Orr, and said, mate, I haven't got a good feeling here. You better ring the CEO and ask him, you know. And he did, and then we met a few hours later, and then it was all resolved.
How do you digest that news? Because even you've got this plan. You were so close. You've assembled this roster.
Yeah.
You've taken some young boys, turned them into men with their best football ahead of them. How do you digest it? What emotions run through?
Well, yeah, it was hard, Jimmy. It was.
Of course it was. Yeah,
really hard. Particularly
because it means so much to you, right?
Yeah, my whole family's invested in rugby league, and my son's still playing there.
Yeah,
Billy. Hope he goes well tonight against the Cows. But anyway, so it was really hard. And I spent a long time with that club as a player and assistant coach and fan. I've been a fan. I'm a sponsor. I buy my tickets, you know, my season tickets. So I'm a member, you know. So but you know, if I sit back and think, well, it's as tough as it is to digest. It's rugby league, you know. And when you're a coach in rugby league, you know, Wayne used to always say there's two types of coaches: those that are been sacked and those that are about to be sacked. Well, Even Wayne's been sacked, Ivan Cleary's been sacked from Penrith.
Yeah. You forget that, yeah.
Craig Bellamy's probably the only one in the modern coaches that hasn't. Everyone else has taken a hit. Anthony Seibold, Shane Flanagan, So if you're a rugby league coach, you're going to expect at some stage. I think Wayne's been done a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So and
got sacked from England, which is bizarre.
One of our greatest ever coaches. So that's the realisation of it. As disappointing as it is, I'm a realist. They wanted to go in a different direction. I've got to accept that, mate, and move on, As much as I disagree with it, but you have to accept it.
Is that, again, part of the attraction, that to prove yourself all over again to those people that made that decision?
I don't think it's about proving. I think it's about the belief in yourself.
Yeah.
I've got that belief that I will be a premiership winning coach. I have that belief. It's like I believed I was going to be a premiership winning player. I believed I could play State of Origin. I believed I could coach State of Origin successfully, win State of Origin series. That's just, I don't know why it's in me. Sometimes I wish it wasn't and I could just, I'm going to say, just walk away, but I can't walk away.
Hotel California.
I'll play that.
You can check out
anytime you like, but
you can never leave.
No, that's it, mate. And you haven't left the game, and really, you're still checked in. You're invested.
I know.
In a different way, but you're still invested. You're putting your talent on the line here on the podcast.
Do you know what, mate? I always think about this. Cameron McInnes, when we were playing, we used to talk about life and everything. He turned around to me one day and he goes, "Mate, this is my life's work."
Yeah.
Fucking yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I actually messaged him about that today.
Right.
I did some exercise in the gym. And I messaged him and said, "Cam, you know what? You're saying if this is my life's work,
100%.
it got me through."
Yeah.
Like, because it is.
Yeah.
And we can all resonate.
And look how he plays.
Yeah.
His life depends on everything he does on the field.
And you just can't turn it off.
No. If you could, we all would sometimes, but I can't. I can't turn it off. And I'm pleased I can't, because I love it.
But it is, we do love it. Like, and
it's punishment sometimes, mate. Yeah. You got to, you forwards, like, catch that ball, charge into the line to start a game. I think, wow. And you fight over it.
Yeah.
You fight over who wants to, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Webke, Siva to Siva, Lazarus, nah, I'm doing this. Get out.
Well, mate, just like, and it affects our family. Like, when you got moved on from the Broncos, like, it affected my family because Charlie calls me up, mate, you're never going to believe, like, obviously everybody in the media, Charlie's like, we've got to do an emergency podcast. I said, mate, I've got my sister, brother-in-law, and their 2 kids over. I was like, well, I can't. He's like, so I had to ship them all upstairs, go into the downstairs office.
Wow.
And they're like, they're in the background doing Nino, emergency I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. But it just keeps giving the game, mate.
It's have you got a pathway mapped out in your mind about how you can become an NRL Premiership winning coach?
Yeah, I have. The learnings from the Broncos have been huge.
Yeah.
Huge. In everything about coaching. See, I always thought, when people tell you like coaching, the tactics and all of that, that's what your assistants do, and you get good assistants and they help you with all of that. But it's more the management of people under you and above you, So, I'm really confident that I will get a job and I will be successful as a coach if I want to. I might choose to continue this path because this is less pressure, but it's also there is pressure.
Yeah, especially when you become with yourself and Dobbo on the inside ball.
But there's pressure on Fox too every week. You got to say the right things. You got to be informative. You can't mess your lines up. You look like a dill. So there's pressure all the time. But coaching's a different pressure. But again, it's the game, and we love the game.
Can I ask you about an aspect of coaching? And obviously Wayne Bennett played an important role in your life as a coach. What's it like to go up against him? Somebody that coached you, and then you're in opposite boxes. Is that like what?
Yeah,
can you try and tell me what it's like?
That's weird. That is not weird. That's different. Yeah, and same with Craig Bellamy, because I'm really good mates. And Ricky Stewart, we're all sort of, those are the sort of three coaches that I sort of know more than anybody else. And it's, before a game, you don't want to sort of walk past them, or even after a game, it's awkward when someone wins and someone loses, So it is hard. Particularly, I know Wayne Bennett as much as anyone, and he knows me. And same with those other lads as well. We just know each other so well that someone's got to lose again, someone's going to win. You just try and be the one that wins.
But I can't imagine, for me to go up against a Christian Wolf or go up against a Daniel Anderson that have had success. I just can't. I can't put myself in that situation.
So my way of handling that is enjoy it. Enjoy not only the relationship, but also how you want to beat Wayne Bennett coach teams. You want to beat Craig Bellamy coach.
Is there more?
Ricky Stewart. Yeah, it's more in it.
Yeah, there's more in it. Yeah.
There is.
Even playing against old teammates.
Yeah,
like that's probably my recollection when I went to the Dragons playing against the Dogs. I was like, we're on. Like, or one of the
don't think this is fun. This is going to be on.
Yeah, like when Mick Innes left playing at Cronulla, I was like, beat him, Josh. And you come up against old teammates but for coaching, it's difficult to take myself there.
Yeah, no, it's the same with coaching. But again, that's one of those little sidelights that it's very intriguing, and that's why you do it, mate.
We've touched on a lot of things: playing, coaching, Kangaroos Tour. It looks like it's coming back.
Yeah, love it.
And Ref, talk to me about that. 1990, you went over with your twin brother.
Yeah, Karen and I, yeah. I was actually quite lucky to get on that tour because Wally Lewis was going to be the 5'8", but he broke his arm late in the season, so he got ruled out medically. So I was sort of like, there was myself, Cliff Lyons, Laurie Daly, Brad Fittler was on that tour as well. So there was a host of us that could play 5'8". I think Cliffy Lyons ended up getting the nod in the big test. But it was a lifelong dream come true. I remember getting up watching the Kangaroos play against the English overseas on those tours, and it was just a childhood dream, really. And to get selected and be coached by the late great Bobby Fulton as the team coach, the head coach, it was just. And we had Keithy Barnes, who was our team manager. He was an Australian legend as well in the 50s and 60s from Balmain. And just touring with those guys, Mel was the captain. That was his third tour. I think he went on 4 tours, which is a record. So yeah, everything about it I loved, and I loved playing at the English ground. I hadn't played there before. The English fans were so amazing, and they knew everyone, knew all the players. Particularly Mel, he was probably the biggest favourite. Wembley, round 1, we got beaten in the first test, and we met up. So I wasn't playing, obviously, but up in the. What's the room they call up there where all the bigwigs head at Wembley?
The Royal. Yes, I can't recall the
name. There was some royalty there.
It's the old
Wally Lewis.
The old
there.
Wembley.
That's royalty. That's our royalty. But so some people from Joey Mangles was there from Neighbours, which is you don't know Joey.
Joe Mangle.
Joey, yeah.
I do know. I don't know him personally, but
I was having the time of my life.
Hey, me and Neighbours.
That's
Don't you worry about that.
You know how big Neighbours is in the UK, and particularly then in the 90s. Like Joey was a superstar, but he came to the game. We spent a bit of, so it was a good time. I didn't play the tests, but just being around all that was fantastic, and we had a good time too because the Emus, as I was part of the Emus team, we'd play midweek, so we would get the weekends off basically. So we enjoyed ourselves. Let's just say that. I roomed with Des Hasler.
Did ya?
Desi Hasler, yeah, we were roomies.
Is it true as like a fitness
Crazy
freak?
fitness. So I would be out having a beer late at night, and Des would be in sleeping because he was playing on the weekend. He'd get home and I'd say, Des, you haven't done enough today. I said, we need 40 push-ups out of you. He'd get up out of bed. I'd wake him up, coming home, annoying him, and he'd just start to, and I'd sit on his back and I'd count them out for him, and then he'd do the sit-ups. I'd put him through his routine, and he's a great fella, Des. The amount of, and Alf would often come back in the room too and just tease Des, but he never said anything, never said to him, mate, that's enough of that garbage. Yeah. Can you stop doing that? And I was annoying. I was annoying. I was a pest to him, so was Alf. But he just put up with it, and he played all the 3 tests, I think, Desi. Yeah. Great fella.
Even that, like guys who you roomed with, and then you're coaching against them.
Yeah.
Like,
there's another one down
funny
the
how,
Titans, yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. Well, through that era, a lot of the ex-players became, Ricky, Mal, Des, Laurie's coaching, New South Wales now. Host of ex-players through that era still coaching,
Do you think the Australian jersey has maybe been undervalued a little bit? Obviously, we know Origin has overtaken it, but back in 1990, the pinnacle was
the Kangaroos
Tour. That was I remember speaking to Junior Pierce, and he's still filthy about missing that test.
Yeah,
that tour.
Yeah, he got ruled out with a knee. Yeah,
this is 30, 40 years after the fact.
Yeah. Well, and Mel is endeavouring to bring it back in a smaller scale, but as long as the English clubs have got to agree to play their games midweek, obviously, or they've got to, because it's post-season, but I'm sure the English fans, they just used to bring that tour alive, with their support, not only for their own team, but also the support for the Australians. And I remember playing a game at Thrum Hall. It's not
Halifax
against
the slope.
The slope, right? So we're running down the slope.
Mate, the RLPA would be not allowing Thrum Hall, mate. Forget that.
No, it was a rugged ground. But and the dressing rooms, even I used to hit my head on the ceiling. Now, that small, Alfie, shocking. But anyway, it was good fun, and they're crammed in. Like the crowds were, and after the game, that not so much me because I wasn't sort of the superstar, but autographs and photos and all that stuff. It was amazing, mate. They really made the tour. And then you had the Australians also from here. It would have been 10,000 Australians would go and follow the tour around on buses and staying at hotels. It was, if Mel can, and the Australian Rugby League and the English Rugby League can, because it's good coin. They surely must make some decent money out of it as well, mate.
They need Australia to go there.
Yeah.
That would bring the crowds back, I feel. And with the right promotion, I believe it's imminent, the announcement of Wembley, Everton and Headingley. Like we need to get behind this. We're Rugby League in competition with AFL, Union. Yeah. We've got State of Origin as the jewel in our crown, but the Australian jersey and the British jersey or the English jersey, Kiwis, Samoa, Tonga, we've got something there. And I think the NRL now are involved in running part of the international game. It's something we should be so proud of.
Yeah, and they probably need to snip a few games off the NRL calendar.
Perhaps
for that to happen, and future, so that all the international game is continues to be safe and really competitive, but also the NRL remains strong and competitive as well. And I think if you bumped a couple of rounds off, which you could easily do, that would make sense to me for the guys that are playing for their clubs, for Queensland, and then for whichever international team they choose.
Man, it's funny. Just I could go on for ages about some of the English grounds that you would have played at, like Thrum Hall. Did you get to Workington or Whitehaven?
Yeah, no. What we played up there?
Barrow, maybe.
Barrow.
Tough conditions.
Yeah.
Good people, the Cumbrian people.
Cumbria, yeah.
My dad's
That's where
from.
we went. Is that Barrow?
Barrow's in Cumbria. Yeah. So
that was an invitational team we played against up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some I don't know where they made them up from, but
it would have been a Cumbrian invitational. That's what it would have been. Yeah. So Cumbria, very proud to be associated with that area. That's where my dad grew up and take a lot of values from there. But
and often in the English teams there were Australians as well. Yeah, that were playing.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic tour, and you got to see. I love London and I love England. It's a great place. I understand why you came down here to challenge yourself, but it's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it? There, your home country. It's lovely.
It is. I'd only been to London as a tourist for the first time about 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Mate, we just knocked around. And
you stay up north, eh?
Why would I go to London when I can go to the Hope and Anchor? Each and every week. Like, Nexus, the nightclub in St. Helens, or going to Liverpool. Like, why do I go all the way to London? Now I go back and I feel embarrassed for all the things I've not done.
Yeah. We've probably done more than Australians.
You would have done. 100%. Every Aussie that's toured England would have done way more than most people in the north. We just...
Stay in the north.
Stick to our own. Yeah. Matt, I'm conscious of time.
Right.
We do our 4 questions for each and every guest. First off, the dream spine.
Dream spine.
So you're 1, 6, 7, 9.
Am I playing?
Get yourself in there.
Hey, I'm playing. Right?
Walter's at 6.
Langer 7. I've got either Kerrod or Steve Walters at 9. And my fullback, that's a tough one. I was going to say, I love playing with Julian O'Neill. I loved him in the early days of the Broncos, but Lockie was, he's probably going to be is he immortal or he's going to be an immortal?
He will be.
He was very good. We had 2 or 3, 4 years with Lockie at fullback, and he was sensational at the back. So I've got to put Lockie in at fullback.
Hard to go past that one. You spoke about growing up. The question is, if football didn't exist, what would you do? But you were...
I was a carpenter. We all did. Mum and Dad make sure we finished school because we weren't that bright at school. Well, school wasn't for us. It was for us, but it wasn't sort of. So we all got carpentry.
Like a lot.
We all got trades, and then we played our rugby league. So yeah, I'd be a carpenter. But I've got the 3 boys are carpenters: Harry, Billy, and Jack. Jack's my oldest boy. They've all done their apprenticeships, and Jack's got a building company. It's in the family. My brother, my dad, my pop. So yeah.
A sliding doors moment that you think about the alternative.
Sliding doors was when I elected to leave the Raiders and come back to the Broncos. So I had a 3-year contract, 87, 88, 89 at the Raiders. They won the grand final in 89, their first ever premiership. So it would have been easier for me to stay on, but I had Laurie Daly and Ricky Stewart in front of me.
Wow, yeah.
They were the long-term halves for the Raiders, and I wanted to go back to Brisbane. I loved the fact of the Broncos. I had my brother there, Kerrod, and Alfie. I played a lot of junior football with and against Alf, so I thought my best chance to long-term to play in the NRL would be to move back there. Even though Wally Lewis was the 5'8" there at the time, one of my proudest moments in my whole career, so I came back to the Broncos in 1990. Wally was injured to start the season. And then he came back, I think about game 3, and he had a conversation. I thought, here, I'm gone. Wally's back. And he had a conversation with Wayne Bennett and said, well, listen, Kevvie's playing pretty good footy there. Why don't we leave him there and I'll move to 13.
Wow.
So I thought I was Gonski, obviously the king. And, yeah, that was one of the moments that just stayed with me about Wally and his selflessness to... allow me to come in and play there.
Do what's best for the team.
I stayed there. Yeah. I stayed there ever since. I didn't get moved. So I was really grateful for Wally and I got a lot of confidence out of that as well.
Oh,
Wally Lewis was happy to move. Wow.
He sees something in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always remembered that moment. It was a sliding doors. And it worked out really well in the end with the Broncos. But my time in Canberra was fabulous as well. Yeah. Two grand finals in 3 years and winning one, their first ever. It was pretty good going.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question. I think I know the answer, but the most interesting person that you've met?
That's my wife, easily done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, well, she is. Yeah. She's really been great for me and our family. But I'd have to say outside of that, if you look in celebrity or famous people, Lachlan Murdoch has been a little bit part of our lives. He came when Super League was first introduced. He came to a barbecue at Alfie's house out in the scrub in Brisbane. That's where we first met Lachlan. And then over the years, through different scenarios, and then 2 years ago I went on a learning tour of America and England, and I had lunch with Lachlan in LA, myself and Narelle. It was a great experience. What a person he is. And the Murdochs have done so much for our game here, just bringing in the Super League, like more money for the players, better lifestyle. And then now with Fox, they've just been taken over, I think, haven't they? Or sold or whatever. Yeah. But they've done amazing. The Murdoch family have done amazing things for our game here. And that little relationship with Lachlan is pretty special.
Yeah, cool. Kevvie, it's been fantastic to chat with you, mate.
Mate.
I could be in your company.
Do you want an assistant coach's role one day, or are you right doing what you're doing? I'll take you on, mate. You're competitive. Look at you. Compete, fun, play. There you go.
There's some, Sorry, Charlie, we're going to have to dissolve the buy round or maybe hand it over to
you're
pass
going
the
good
baton on.
No. Can I just say thanks for having us on too, Jimmy? You and your team doing a great job, mate. Podcasting's not easy either, but you're very successful in everything you've done in your career, and this is no different, mate. So well done.
Thank you very much. And I think, I'd like to repay the favour. If you're ever desperate for a guest.
We're not desperate, mate.
The inside ball needs some filler.
The buy round. This is the buy round. Well, the magic round. I'm assuming you're going to be in Brisbane.
Believe so.
Lock it in, mate.
Let's do it. Even though I have a distinct dislike for Ben Dobbin, I'll do it for you. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Cheers, Kevvie.